Here's a brief look at how I did some of the opening title tracking shots in Albert. Basically, I'll just be showing you how I turn a shot like this of a bus driving up a hill into something more like this with a title on the back of it, or turning a shot like this one here into something a little more like this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my footage into After Effects. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to choose Open in Editor. I've set up my preferences so it will bring that straight into After Effects for me. Now I'll make a new composition with that clip. Now going back to Final Cut, if I double click on the clip and I copy my timecode up here, come back to After Effects, click here and paste my timecode, my playhead will automatically jump to the place where the clip starts. So I'm going to split my layer there, go to the end of the clip by double clicking here, copying the timecode, coming into After Effects, pasting the timecode once again, moving forward a frame this time and splitting the layers. Now I'm only going to be working with this middle clip because that's all that I need inside Final Cut, so I'm just going to hide my top and bottom layers here. Okay, with this middle layer selected, if I go to the first frame, basically I want to get a title onto the back of the bus, but the bus is moving and it's changing perspective, so I'll need to somehow track it. After Effects has some motion tracking features, but I'm going to do this inside of Mocha for After Effects instead. Okay, so now that my clip is inside of Mocha, I'm going to start off by creating an X-spline mask. So I'll just use the X-spline tool over here, and zooming in, I'm going to draw my shape just sort of over this boot and tail light area on the back of the bus. The reason I'm not going around the windows, although they are really good points of high contrast, which is normally a really good thing for motion tracking, is simply because there's reflections. Mocha tends to do well with reflections, although I don't think that I'll really need to bother with it. I'm going to turn on perspective, that's something really important for a shot like this, and then hit track forwards. Okay, so the track is done, and it did seem to slide around a little bit up this top left corner, but I think it will be okay. Now, it's important that I head back to the start of this clip, and then all I have to do is choose File and export the tracking data. I'm going to make sure that I've got After Effects corner pin with motion blur, and I'm going to choose Copy to Clipboard. Back inside After Effects, it's really important that my playhead is at the first frame of the layer, just like it was in Mocha a moment ago. With it there, I can choose Layer and I can create a new null object. With the null object selected over here, in my Layers panel, I'll choose the Effects control and then simply hit Command V to paste that tracking data. You can see that this red square sticks to the back of the bus, and that's exactly what we want to do. So I'm just going to write on here, and I'm going to write with Harold Shug. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm just going to fiddle around with the text properties over here until I'm happy. Okay, so I feel as though I'm getting there. I'm just going to try something like lowering the opacity perhaps a little to help it blend in, and I'm also going to add a Gaussian blur because the text is really sharp and the DSLR footage is a little bit soft, especially because it was such a foggy day. Now what we have to do, because if you see here when I play through the footage, the text is not sticking to the back of the bus. So heading back to the first frame here, all that I have to do is take my text layer, drag this little whip guy, and parent it to the null object. Now when I play through, you'll see that the text sticks nicely to the back of the bus. I'm going to turn on motion blur for the layout and motion blur for the composition. Then I'll render my clip using Control Command M. It's important that I choose the right settings when I'm exporting this or rendering this out. So I've been working with Apple ProRes 422 for my entire project, so I'm just going to stick with that. And then we can hit render. Now the reason that I'm rendering all this blank space before and after is so that I can relink it back inside of Final Cut Pro. Okay, so now that my clip is finished rendering inside After Effects, I'll jump back into Final Cut. All that I have to do now is come over and choose Reconnect Media, and then locate the file that I rendered out of After Effects and hit connect. Now what that's done, you can see, is this is our clip. Now all I have to do is simply add on my filters, so that includes my widescreen bars and my color grading, and the clip is done. Okay, so with this second clip here, it's going to be a similar process in terms of moving my clip into After Effects. Now what I'm going to do, the same thing applies in terms of motion tracking a space to put the title. I'm not going to do it inside of Mocha this time. I'm just going to try using After Effects built-in camera tracker. So I'm just going to choose Track Camera for this clip. And actually I've just decided now I'm going to cancel that by deleting that effect, because I know that I don't need it to track any further than when this red wall goes out of shot, so about here. Everything else after that is unnecessary, so I'm just going to split the layer again. But this time I'm going to keep this one displayed because I might as well keep that in my render. Okay, so moving to frame 1 here, I'll select it and then choose to track camera. Okay, so the track is finished, and you see we get all these points here. If I scrub through, you can see that the points are actually sticking to the wall there, so that's really good. Now I want to choose the points that I want to stick my title on, so I'm just going to get this lasso and make a big selection around these ones here. Okay, now we're given this little target area. I'm just going to right click on the target and choose Create Text and Camera. Now the text is on a pretty weird angle at the moment, but that's okay. I'm just going to hit R for my rotation to try and work out where I actually want it to go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to change the size of the text, and I want to write the title of the film, Albert. Move this over. I'm going to do this in Arial Black. Okay, so again, I'm just going to mess around with the sizing and the rotation till I'm happy with how it looks. And you'll notice that when I scrub through, the title actually sticks to that point in the frame, which is great. I'm also going to turn on motion blur for the layout and the composition. I'd just like to sort of center this up with the door frame underneath. Okay, so the next step is to sort of give this text a bit of depth and hopefully realism, sort of make it look like it's blending into the wall, or make it look like it's part of the brickwork. So what I'm going to do is change my blend mode to darken, and I'm going to set the text to white. And you can't really see what's going on at the moment. Add a drop shadow now. Okay, so we can see that Albert is here very subtly. I'll bring the opacity up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Command D. Now with this layer, I'm going to set the opacity to about 40 and change the color of the text to sort of one of these brick sort of colors. And I'll just move this around the screen until I find a spot that I like. One of these bricks, those darker ones, they're good. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I might make it a little darker. Now the next step would be to add a blur to these layers. So I'm just going to drag and drop a Gaussian blur onto the bottom one, and I'm going to set that to about 4. And I'll just copy this effect and paste that into the other layer as well. And that just softens everything a little bit, just to try and make it match with the footage. We can sort of get an idea of depth, even though there's no real 3D compositing or anything. It's just blend modes and shadows. Okay, so now I'm just going to split my titles so they don't look all weird here where they're not supposed to be. So I'm just going to head to the first frame. There we go. Head to the last frame where the title is in shot. Okay, great. So my shot is all ready to go, ready to be rendered. So I'm going to do that now by hitting Control Command M, changing my export settings to ProRes as well, because that's what I've been working in the whole time, and hitting render. With my shot now, all I have to do is right click on my clip, choose Reconnect Media, locate it, hit connect, and there we go, the title has popped up. Now I've previously worked on this, so I'm just going to get those filters that I applied, copy them, and paste them on. And there we go.